Number 1, DeAndre Ayton of the Phoenix Suns, an A-. The only reason I didn't give him a perfect A, since Trae Young and Luka, the two best players and franchise guys in this class, but that's not to mention the 7-foot big man, absolutely sensational fit perfectly with D-Books and CP3. His defense heavily improved from his rookie year and proved all the doubters wrong. Absolutely vital in the Lakers series, a double-double machine on the glass, strong and physical, going from never being talked about as the number 1 pick, who's looking like a future all-star, put more respect in his name in the discussion as a top 5 center today. After being suspended 25 games in year 2, many thought the team would be better with Aaron Baines at the starting center. Ayton's growth and feel for the game, the fundamentals and understanding his role, the biggest difference of his improvement. Although he doesn't put up crazy numbers, plays an extremely crucial role for Monty Williams, Booker the 25+ point scorer, CP the facilitator and floor general, along with 3-point shooters. Ayton gets a lot of easy shots in the paint, doesn't need to have any plays ran for him, a great athlete who hustles, runs the floor, utilizes all the tools he needs to be an effective 5 today. The knock on him coming into the league, his motor. Now he's one of the hardest working players in the entire league, makes life easier for his teammates. Many bigs with his skill set would demand the ball more. He's easily a 20 and 10 guy on another team, but sacrificing his numbers for team success. Very respectable on defense now, a future All-NBA teamer and defensive teamer in the making. Number 2, Marvin Bagley III, an F. Yes, the Marvin Bagley experiment for the Kings has been an absolute travesty. The power forward and number 1 high school player, been injury prone, missed 20 games in year 1, played just 13 in year 2, 43 year 3. Luke Walton benched him for the more effective Rashawn Holmes. The Kings play better without Bagley on the floor, wins more games without him. The franchise still a mess. His father voices displeasure on social media, wants his son to be traded, which leads to De'Aaron Fox's father saying, okay, trade him. Bagley's supposed to be a superstar type player with Chris Bosh-like potential. As of now, Bagley's image will be remembered as the guy picked ahead of Luka. If he doesn't improve his game, I see the Kings getting rid of him soon and he'll just end up being a role player. Bagley can still pan out and become a good player when healthy, but the Kings drafting him was a failure since him being there only causes more distractions. Number 3, Luka Doncic, the Luka Trae Young trade, both super winners, and A++. Yes, Dallas absolutely genius for wanting to take the Slovenian prodigy, who's on his way to becoming the very best player in the league, no doubt about that. His impact and dominant offensively as a complete offensive player, there is nothing like it. The Mavs franchise was a mystery and appeared to be heading towards a bad direction for a while when Dirk was near retirement, but Doncic single-handedly made Dallas relevant again and doesn't really have a true second star since Porzingis is on and off, hasn't been the same since his ACL tear. Luka Magic is a mixture of Larry Bird and Magic Johnson put in one. That's how great he is, nothing else needs to be said. Number 4, Jared Jackson Jr., a B for the Grizzlies for now, 6'11", prototypical power forward / center, barely played this season because of injury. Health is somewhat of a concern since he's missed 24 games as a rookie, relatively healthy for year 2 where he averaged over 17 a game, decent outside shooter, a role player for star John Moran. Jackson averaged 13.5 points, over 5 boards against Utah, still 21 years old, good on defense, far from a finished product. I see Jackson's role with Memphis similar to what Chris Bosh was in Miami. Triple J likely won't be as great as CB, but his impact vital. The Grizz franchise should go up from here. Of course, Trae Young, the 5th pick, who I admit was absolutely wrong about 3 years ago. My mistakes for doubting his greatness, playing absolutely great basketball as a franchise guy for Atlanta, for a playoff team under terrific head coach Nate McMillan, only player in the league this season to average over 25 points, 9 assists, plays like a vet with his ability to sell calls and draw contact, has unlimited range, and absolutely torched the Knicks in the first round. A game winner in his first ever playoff game, shows what he's truly made of, embraces the moment. It would be an absolute travesty if Young is ever left out of an all-star selection again if he plays this well, becoming one of the best guards in the league and growing very fast. Mo Bamba, a C+ so far. The Magic drafted him only to sit him on the bench since Vucevic was their best player until they finally traded him. Bamba has shown signs of improvement since wasn't even the starting center after Vucevic's departure, but his last 24 games in year 3 played 21 minutes, put up 11 points, 7.5 boards, 1.6 blocks. On an awful rebuilding franchise, the 23-year-old will be one of the key players next season and expected to develop into at least a 12-8 guy, not properly developed for a terrible franchise. Not the best situation for him either. Steve Clifford even started Cam Burch over him. I do believe Bamba will be an impactful player, but nowhere near the best in his class. Number 7, Wendell Carter Jr., a B-, whose numbers remains the same since his rookie season. An 11-8 guy, injury prone, 44, 43, and 54 games this past year, part of the Vucevic trade, now being on the same team with Bamba, the starting center, and same position as Mo. Mo advanced at this stage of his career, has some nice post moves, the hook shot and the mid-range, a decent starting big, but will need to expand his range. The Carter and marketing front court didn't work for the Bulls. His highest ceiling seems to be a less talented version of Bam Adebayo, doesn't have the handles and the passing. Carter Jr. doesn't have the outside shooting of a modern power forward, and an undersized center at 6'10", just turned 22. I could see him being a 16-11 guy in his prime and a borderline all-star player, but likely not as good as Al Horford. Colin Sexton, a B for this pick. Young Bo gets too much hate and negativity because of all his antics, sometimes taken the wrong way. Quietly average over 24 a game. In year 3, zero mentions about it since the Cavs stink. Relies a lot on iso ball and a score-first point guard, more of a 2 guard, listed as 6'1", with backcourt mate Darius Garland 6 foot. It appears the Cavs will trade one of the two. Sexton most memorable for his 42-point epic game in a win against Brooklyn. A talented athlete on a dysfunctional franchise. There's been talks the franchise might trade him, but what better player can they get out of it? In a good structured organization, I do believe Sexton can excel as one of the primary options, more of a 6-man type role, being a 20-point scorer off the bench for high energy. Hard in today's NBA for Sexton being the best player on a serious contender, but when he's on a better team, I see his numbers going down for the better good. Very good player, but I can't imagine he'll stick around in Cleveland for very long. Number 9, Kevin Knox, an F. Barely plays for the Knicks, hasn't developed one bit, looked like a waste of a pick. Mikal Bridges, SGA, Miles Bridges, and MPJ drafted right below him. One of the multitudes of young prospects not living up to expectations. A guy who started playing basketball at a later age, regressed in minutes from averaging 13 points in 29 minutes his rookie year. Respectable but not efficient. New York didn't have anybody better to play anyway back then. But now, a team that plays hard. Year 3, average under 4 points a game, 11 minutes, shooting under 40% each of his first 3 seasons. His play has went backwards, non-existent under tips, can't shoot, just nowhere in the rotation for him. His confident look shot too, perhaps his Knicks days are over. Number 10, Mikal Bridges, an A for the Phoenix Suns for getting him in a trade, and an F for the Philadelphia 76ers for trading him. If the Sixers never won a title in the Embiid and Simmons era together, the franchise will forever regret looking back at this trade. Bridges, a Nova kid who's a perfect definition of a 3-and-D type player. Anybody with a basic basketball mind would have figured out Bridges would be a very useful player given his skill set, being able to play big minutes for a big time team. We've seen him ball out at Nova, play discipline. Trading him to the Suns for Zaire, who's out of the NBA, Smith, and a pick? I was thinking the Knicks would be smart enough to take him, but no. The starting small forward for a team with the second best record, averaging 13.5 points, shot over 54% from the field, over 42 from 3 this season. Many have been shocked. Bridges considered to be one of the most unexpected contributors for a Western Conference contender, but anybody who watched Bridges play in college wouldn't be surprised one bit. The 11th pick, Gilgeous-Alexander, one of the best 4 players in this class so far, the best player on the rebuilding Thunder squad, averaged 23.7 points, 5 and 6 with OKC. Last season, averaged 19.6 rebounds for a good Thunder team with CP3, picked by Charlotte but traded for Bridges, then signed with the Clippers. Many wonder if LAC would have been better off not trading for Paul George, since SGA would have been the perfect floor general for the team, a future multiple-time All-Star in the making. ranking. Number 12, Miles Bridges. I give it a B+. So far looking good. A solid role player out of Michigan State. Insane athleticism, gets the announcers and fan excited for his monster dunks. Averages 13 a game, 6 rebounds, 50% from the field and 40 from 3. Much improved outside shooter since getting to the league. His biggest flaw was his lack of shooting. Last 17 games of the season, averaged nearly 20 points, 7 rebounds. No longer making headlines for just dunking the ball. Although he does have some of the best in-game slams, his development as an improved shooter will continue helping the franchise. Number 13, Jerome Robinson, an F. Clippers could have had Porter Jr., the man who helped eliminated them in the bubble. Somebody like Dante DiVincenzo could have brought energy to the team. Robinson could have been part of an earlier trade off the bench. 4.5 points on 36% shooting, a piece drawn in part of the Marcus Morris trade. Washington waived him in April, looking like one of the worst lottery picks in recent memory. The last lottery pick, Michael Porter Jr., an A+ for the Denver Nuggets. If it wasn't for his injuries, MPJ would have likely been a top 5 pick. A high school sensation with Kevin Durant type skills. At 6'10", Porter Jr. plays in the perfect situation, being on a franchise where he can be patient and take his time to develop, while superstar Jokic handles the rest. Perhaps the best thing to happen for the Nuggets: lose in the final game of the 2018 regular season, fell in the tiebreaker to Minnesota, so they ended up with the final lottery pick, or maybe not, since the Wolves franchise would have probably screwed up in that draft. The biggest gamble in the trade because of the injury concerns. Although the Knicks had a great 2021 season, Knicks fans still sick to their stomach why Knox was picked ahead of Porter Jr., one of the most improved players too. MPJ averaged 19 a game this season, elevated his game after Murray's injuries, already had a couple 30+ point games, averaged 19 in the Portland series, going 54, 41, 91 shooting splits, rounding up his overall game. A flat-out deadly knockdown shooter, can score without the ball, playing alongside one of the best playmakers in the game, very underrated in crashing the glass, an incredible pickup by the Nuggets franchise, a go-to bucket getter, has the footwork, will need to draw more fouls with more games, having more chemistry. The Denver Nuggets should be in contenders for years. Other good and decent role players outside of the lottery includes Dante DiVincenzo, picked 17 by the Bucks, Lonnie Walker, solid for San Antonio, Kevin Huerter, the starting 2-guard for Atlanta, Grayson Allen looking good this season, Robert Williams looking promising for Boston, pick 27, huge pickup. Jalen Brunson, the 33rd pick, some nights looks like Dallas' second best player off the bench. Devontae Graham picked 34th, a steal for Charlotte. Mitchell Robinson, a great energy big at 36. Gary Trent Jr., 37, the best Duke player on the 2018 team currently in 2021's NBA. Bruce Brown picked 42nd by Detroit. Brown an important piece for Brooklyn. And how about Shea Milton, the 54th pick? Dallas shouldn't have traded him to Philly. Lots of good players in this class. Many of them will continue to ball out and get big contracts.